Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Let's begin with this morning's headlines. United Nations General Assembly's 70th session begins today. India hopes to realize dream of permanent membership at the Security Council after UN adopts documents reforms negotiations. Sri Lankan Prime Minister to call on Prime Minister Narendra Modi today. The Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement likely to be signed during this trip to India. Delhi government cancels leave of doctors as dengue crisis worsens in the national capital. 600 fresh cases reported in the last 1 week alone. EU fails to reach agreement on relocation of migrants across member countries. 3 more countries announce tighter border controls to check the influx. And Tony Abbott loses party's leadership challenge and is ousted as Prime Minister of Australia. Malcolm Turnbull to be sworn in. Well, let's begin with our top focus on the bulletin this morning. The big diplomatic win for India at the United Nations. The UNGA has agreed to negotiate the wording of a document that will call for reforming the UN Security Council. This means India's hopes of securing a permanent seat in the 15-member UNSC have brightened. The UN's 70th session begins today. Here's a report.
The United Nations General Assembly has unanimously adopted the negotiating text for carrying out reforms in the Security Council. The document sets the stage for talks to be held on the long-pending reforms process during the 70th session of the United Nations. The government has termed it a historic and path-breaking step, saying the decision to adopt negotiating text puts the intergovernmental process formally on an irreversible text-based negotiations path and changes the dynamics of the negotiations on achieving UNSC reforms.
Well, I think it's a very significant and historic moment in the whole process of UN Security Council reform, because after 23 years of the subject being on the agenda of the United Nations and 7 years of the intergovernmental negotiation process, we finally have a text on the table, and it is India's hope and that of other reform-minded countries that this text will now enable like-minded countries to move forward on this issue of UN Security Council reform, which, as you know, has become a very priority issue for a large number of countries in the world.
The negotiating text has positions of United Nations member states on Security Council reform and details suggestions about how the powerful 15-nation body should be expanded in its permanent and non-permanent categories. The United States, Russia and China indicated they do not wish their proposals to be included in the body of the negotiating text. With the adoption, the process begins for a long-stalled reforms process as the 70th session of the Assembly commences today. This will be the first in the last 7 years of intergovernmental negotiations that have been conducted so far without the basis of any text. This will build on the informal meetings held during UNGA's 69th session, as well as the positions and proposals made by member states that are reflected in the text that have been circulated. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been lobbying for India's permanent candidature in the UNSC in the run-up to UN's 70th anniversary. The UNSC has 15 member nations, of which 5, including the US, Russia and China, are permanent. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, joining me for a chat this morning is former diplomat Shiv Shankar Mukherjee. Ambassador, thank you for joining me on the program, and a very good morning to you. What does this mean for India? The UNGA has gone ahead and adopted, unanimously adopted this particular negotiating text. So does that mean that India's chances are far higher now of getting into the UNSC?
Well, they are, I think, certainly higher when the government, when the spokesman Vikas Swarup and our representative in the UN, our permanent representative, talked about it as being historic and path-breaking. One could agree with them because so far, even in the 7 years of intergovernmental meetings, things have been informal. They really have not gone anywhere, and in spite of intense lobbying and work by India and other countries, there was a sense of pessimism setting in. So now that there's an agreed text on the table, that doesn't mean it's an agreed agreement on the final text. It's a draft text.
Yes.
But I would still say this is very much work in progress. 3 out of the P5, the permanent 5, have already expressed their reservations about it. Frankly, the world knows that all the P5, deep down, would like to maintain the Security Council as it is, because then they can carry on being the powerful group that decides on what to, to pursue their interests. They do not want a dilution of their power, in spite of the lip service that they have paid to the reform of the council. So, to quote Churchill, I think this event is now not the end, not the beginning of the end, but the end of the beginning. It's a very good step. There's now a text on the table which will form the basis for negotiations, which is absolutely important to have a focused approach to this very important subject.
You know, there have been calls for reforms in the UNSC for a while now, and many people have been talking about how there need to be some kind of reforms. But like you said, the P5 do not want to, dilute their powers and give it to someone else. But why does India so badly want to be a part of the UNSC?
Well, the need is self-evident. It is the Security Council of the United Nations that really has the teeth in the United Nations. And the Security Council, as it was set up when the UN was established in 1945, today's world is completely different from what it was then in terms of the quantity of membership and in terms of the world as it is today. There's a very, very large number of nations who find themselves and their aspirations, their hopes and their interests not reflected at all in the decisions that are made in the all-powerful Security Council. And this of course, includes the preponderant majority of the developing countries of the world. And it is also absolutely inconceivable that if there is a voice in the Security Council, a country that meets all the UN criteria, a country that has size, the size of the economy, the role in world peacekeeping, its own democratic traditions, it is inconceivable that that country is not India. And many, many countries really hope that with India's being in the permanent membership of the Security Council, that they too will have a voice in that all-important body of the UN. And therefore, this is a very, very important, target that we wish to achieve. It has been very, very easily slowed down, not sabotaged, but slowed down and sort of roadblocked by the Permanent Five. And even today, I do not expect the negotiations to go without hurdles and so on. I mean, I'm sure already the thinking in the P5, who so far have been, have relied upon the different opinions within the developing countries themselves to do their work. I mean, there was never any unity of approach. Even in the G4, India, Japan, Germany, and Brazil, because in each continent, like in Latin America and in Africa, there were voices that differed. So as I said, this is a very good step. It is something we should be very glad about. And I think, let's give credit where it's due. This is almost entirely due to Indian diplomacy that we have reached there. But hard work remains ahead. This is very much work in progress.
Very much work in progress. Nothing is guaranteed at this point in time. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for joining us on the program this morning and putting things into perspective for us.
Thank you.
Let's now get you the latest from poll-bound Bihar. Well, in the run-up to the Bihar polls, the BJP Central Election Committee will meet in New Delhi today. The committee is likely to announce the names of its candidates for the seats which goes to polls in the first few phases. In the 243-seat assembly elections, the BJP will contest from 160 seats, while its allies, the Lok Jan Shakti Party, will contest on 40 seats. The RLSP and former Bihar Chief Minister Jitan Ram Manjhi's party will fight for 23 and 20 seats respectively. The five-phase polling for the most keenly contested polls since the 2014 Lok Sabha polls begins from October 12th and concludes on November 5th. Well, the BJP-led NDA finalized its seat-sharing agreement for the upcoming Bihar polls on Monday. The biggest party in the alliance, BJP, gets the biggest share of seats, 160 of the total 243. But the biggest gainer has been Jitan Ram Manjhi and his Hindustan Awam Morcha. His relentless parlays with the BJP have ensured that his party will contest 20 seats. Here's more.
मजबूरी वाला गठबंधन है। चुनाव जीतने के लिए, आंकड़ों की संख्या बनाने के लिए हुआ गठबंधन है, और दूसरी ओर अच्छी केमिस्ट्री के साथ, एक समान विचार के साथ और बिहार के विकास के प्रति प्रतिबद्ध एक NDA का गठबंधन है।
With this claim of unity, BJP President Amit Shah, flanked by allies Ram Vilas Paswan and Jitan Ram Manjhi, announced the seat-sharing agreement between NDA allies. The deal has been finalized after days of hectic parleys. His party gets the lion's share, 160 out of the total 243 seats. Paswan's LJP will contest 40 seats, Manjhi's HAM 20 seats, and Upendra Kushwaha's RLSP will contest 23 seats.
कोई तनातनी नहीं है, दोनों मुस्कुरा कर आपके सामने बैठे, आप तनातनी मत करवाइए। अरे कोई तनातनी नहीं है भैया, सभी लोग मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में बिहार के विकास के लिए कटिबद्ध है।
Jitan Ram Manjhi's hard bargaining seems to have paid off. Even though on paper his party will contest just 20 seats, some candidates of his choice will contest on BJP tickets. After Manjhi's split from JDU, BJP had accused Nitish Kumar of insulting Mahadalits. Now Manjhi seems to have used the same argument to his advantage.
हम NDA के पक्ष की बात कर रहे थे कि जिसका जनाधार है, जो पॉपुलर है गरीबों में, अगर उसको सीट ज़्यादा दीजिएगा, लड़ने का उसको मौका मिलेगा, हम समझते हैं कि उसके उम्मीदवार ज़्यादा जीत के आवेंगे। इसीलिए आप इस पर विचार करें, और लोग विचार किया।
लोक जनशक्ति पार्टी ने शुरू से कहा है कि हमारी लड़ाई सीट की नहीं है, इसलिए आपने देखा होगा लोक जनशक्ति पार्टी ने कहीं कोई जिच नहीं किया। हमारा एकमात्र उद्देश्य है कि NDA की सरकार बने, और ये जो नीतीश कुमार की सरकार है, महागठबंधन की सरकार, वो जाए।
BJP's decision to keep 160 seats for itself shows that it has hopes to form a government on its own. But Bihar's social equations will ensure that it cannot move forward without its allies. Shyam Sundar's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Moving on, now the Empowered Committee of State Finance Ministers will meet today to finalize the model legislations that have to be approved by state legislatures for the rollout of the Goods and Services Tax, or GST. The committee is continuing its preparatory work despite the centre dropping the idea of convening a special session to pass the GST bill. The centre aims to roll out GST from April 1st, 2016. The two legislations, central GST and state GST, will have to be approved by respective state legislatures. Besides, another legislation, integrated GST, would also have to be adopted by the states. The bill has been passed in the Lok Sabha, but it is yet to be approved by the Rajya Sabha, where the ruling BJP does not enjoy a majority of its own. The government plans to implement GST, which would subsume central excise, service tax and other local levies, and is estimated to boost India's GDP by 1 to 2%. Well, it's time for a short break now, but still to come. Bangkok temple blast suspect was in Delhi for a few hours on transit from Dhaka to Abu Dhabi last month. We'll tell you all about it on the other side of the short break. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, now to our focus on the dengue crisis in Delhi. The state government has cancelled leaves of doctors in the wake of the rise in dengue cases this year. 1,000 extra beds have been ordered for public hospitals to treat patients. This year so far has recorded the highest number of dengue cases since 2009. Doctors say that the number of cases of the mosquito-borne viral infection are likely to be much higher, as many go unreported. The civic body, however, has officially recorded 5 deaths so far. Here's more.
In an emergency meeting on Monday, the Delhi government cancelled leaves of all doctors and paramedical staff, including nurses and lab technicians, with immediate effect, in the view of the unusual rise in the number of dengue cases. 2 more patients died of dengue and over 600 fresh cases were reported in the capital in the last 1 week, taking the total number of cases to 1,872 this year.
डेंगू इज वेरी मच क्योरेबल, आराम से ठीक हो जाता है, इसमें कोई खास दिक्कत नहीं होती है। बट अगर हाइड्रेशन नहीं रहेगा तो दिक्कत के चांस हैं। आपको कोई भी सिम्टम लगता है तो आप हॉस्पिटल में जाइएगा, सरकारी हॉस्पिटल में किसी भी पेशेंट को एडमिशन से मना नहीं किया जा रहा है.
While the state government ordered state-run hospitals to open fever clinics in their premises to detect the disease at the primary level, Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal also ordered his MLAs to visit hospitals twice daily to ensure smooth functioning and proper treatment to all dengue patients. Union Health Minister JP Nadda also reviewed the situation and asked the Delhi government to increase bed strength in its hospitals and check overcharging of patients by private hospitals.
पीछे मार्च महीने से लेकर के अगस्त महीने के बीच में स्वास्थ्य मंत्रालय ने लगभग 12 एडवाइजरीज दी हैं और ये एडवाइजरीज जो हैं वो मुख्यमंत्रियों को दी हैं, सभी मुख्यमंत्रियों को दी हैं, स्वास्थ्य मंत्रियों को दी हैं, हेल्थ सेक्रेटरीज को दी हैं और उसको हम प्रोटोकॉल्स को फॉलो करने का हमने निर्देश भी दिया है.
61 cases of dengue have been reported in the last 1 week and a total of 1,041 patients have tested positive for the vector-borne disease between September 1 to 12. Experts say dengue is becoming hyper-endemic, which means that different kinds of strains circulate together or coexist. The Delhi government has launched a 24-hour helpline to provide information about dengue and its treatment and has urged people not to create panic about the disease. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, let's take a look now at the news and events lined up for today in our segment, The Day Ahead. The Maha Alliance comprising of JDU, RJD and the Congress is likely to announce seats for the upcoming Bihar Assembly elections. The Janata Dal United, Rashtriya Janata Dal and Congress yesterday held hectic parleys to arrive at a seat-sharing agreement between the members of the anti-BJP Grand Alliance. Minister of Railways Suresh Prabhu will address a specially convened General Managers meeting on safety in rail operations and other matters in Delhi. Minister of State for Railways Manoj Sinha, Railway Board Chairman A.K. Mittal, board members and senior officials of the Railway Board will also be present on the occasion. 12 who were convicted for the 7/11 serial blast in Mumbai 2006 are to be sentenced by court today. A special court of Makoka convicted 12 out of the 13 people arrested last week. On the evening of 11 July 2006, 7 blasts rocked the first-class compartments of Mumbai's local trains in just 11 minutes. The RDX bombs were placed in the trains in pressure cookers. The BCCI is likely to meet today in Delhi to select the Indian team for the upcoming series against South Africa. South Africa will be touring India for a series of 3 T20 matches, 5 ODIs and 4 tests. The 72-day tour will start from October 2nd. Moving on to some international news now, Sri Lankan Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, who is on a 3-day visit to India, will be holding talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj today. One of the key agendas is likely to be the finalization of the agreement on economic ties. Here's more.
Sri Lankan PM Ranil Wickremesinghe touched down in Delhi on Monday evening on his first visit to the country. This is also his first official overseas visit since becoming the Prime Minister. After former President Mahinda Rajapaksa stepped down, India has increased its efforts to boost bilateral ties with the neighbour. After Wickremesinghe extended support to the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, the deal could be finalised during his visit to India. His visit also comes ahead of the crucial meeting of the UNHRC, where a report on Sri Lanka's alleged war crimes is to be released. It is likely to press for further investigation into the killings of civilians, disappearances and other rights violations by the Sri Lankan military.
On Wednesday, I will release the report of the comprehensive investigation that OHCHR was mandated to conduct in March 2014, including my recommendations. Its findings are of the most serious nature.
Though India had abstained a key voting in the UN last year to put sanctions on Sri Lanka, opposition wants the issue to be raised during the talks.
There are a few issues which India really should take it up with the Sri Lankan Prime Minister. Number one, towards the end of this month, there will be UN HRC meeting at Geneva. That will be discussing the Sri Lankan Tamil question, the war crimes, the genocide which took place in Sri Lanka.
Apart from meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi and External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj, the Lankan PM will also meet President on Wednesday. The issue of fishermen is also likely to be part of the talks between the leaders. On Sunday, Sri Lanka announced release of 16 Indian fishermen as a goodwill gesture. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Australia is set to swear in Malcolm Turnbull as its new Prime Minister after Tony Abbott was ousted by his party in a leadership challenge. Turnbull, who will be Australia's 29th Prime Minister, will go to Government House in Canberra today to be sworn in by the Governor-General. Turnbull won a secret party room vote after months of speculation and crumbling support from voters. Foreign Minister Julie Bishop was elected deputy leader of the party, which won a landslide election in 2013. Since then, the popularity of Abbott has suffered from a series of perceived policy missteps, infighting and leaks. The opposition Labour Party has consistently led opinion polls, while Turnbull has been consistently viewed as a preferred Prime Minister. Well, the European Union has failed to reach a unanimous agreement on the relocation of 120,000 migrants across the member countries as per mandatory quotas. Interior ministers of all member countries met in Brussels on Monday to chalk out an agreement, but all efforts by Germany and France were blocked by the poorer eastern countries who refused to take in more migrants. And soon after the talks failed, 3 more countries announced tighter border controls to check the influx of migrants.
EU ministers meeting in Brussels failed to break the deadlock over sharing responsibility for sheltering the thousands of migrants seeking asylum in Europe this year. The fate of nearly 120,000 refugees across Europe remains undecided, at least till the 8th of October, when the 28-member bloc meets again.
For our proposal on 120,000, we did not have the agreement we wanted. A majority of the member states are ready to move forward, but not all.
The 6-hour meeting was marked by heated debate. Leaders from France and Germany made all possible efforts to secure agreement for a proposal to relocate 120,000 people from frontier countries according to mandatory national quotas.
Et la solidarité n'est pas divisible. La charge de l'accueil des réfugiés ne peut pas reposer simplement sur 5 pays de l'Union européenne qui accueillent à eux seuls 75% des demandeurs d'asile et des réfugiés.
But a determined opposition comprising of countries from Eastern Europe like Hungary, Romania, Slovakia and the Czech Republic blocked all such efforts, refusing to abide by the mandatory quota system.
We think that quotas is not the solution, and we have to help the countries which are most affected by this huge flows of migrants.
Magyarországon már pedig ilyen hotspot, ezt így nevezik európaiul, tehát ilyen menekült tábor, ilyen elosztóhely, ilyen nem jöhet létre.
Hungary even closed down the main migrant crossing point from Serbia in a bid to check the record number of migrants streaming into Europe. The new laws, which came into effect Monday midnight, allow the police deployed along the border to arrest anyone considered an illegal immigrant or anyone who tries to breach the new fence. Austria, Slovakia and the Netherlands have also announced tightening of border controls. The move comes a day after Germany imposed controls on its border with Austria to check the influx of migrants into their country. But despite border crackdown, hundreds of migrants poured into Macedonia and Greece, hoping to travel westwards. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And in the latest from the Bangkok blast probe now, news reports suggest that the Chinese national suspected to be responsible for last month's bombing outside a temple in Bangkok was in Delhi for a few hours on transit from Dhaka to Abu Dhabi last month. The accused Abudu Sater Abudu Rahman alias Ishan, who is alleged to have organized the bombing outside Brahma Temple, had taken a flight on August 30th from Dhaka to Abu Dhabi, according to a PTI report. He had to change flight at Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport, where he was in transit for a few hours. Since the transit passengers are not supposed to undergo any immigration check, he could not be apprehended. Moreover, there was no alert about the accused either through Interpol or Thailand authorities. He took a flight from Delhi to Abu Dhabi on August 30th and then travelled to Istanbul the next day. He reportedly left Thailand via Suvarnabhumi International Airport on August 16th, a day before the bombing, to China and then headed to Bangladesh. Here's a look now at some more international news in our World Wrap. Egypt has apologized after 12 people, including 8 Mexican tourists, were mistakenly killed by security forces in an anti-terror operation. The group had permission to travel to a remote area of the western desert. However, the Interior Ministry insists that they entered a restricted area. Egypt has been battling Islamist militants for years, with attacks escalating since the 2013 ousting of Islamist President Mohamed Morsi. UN envoy to Syria, Staffan de Mistura, urged for a political solution to the Syrian conflict after meeting with Arab League Secretary General Nabil al-Rabi in Cairo. Mistura also held talks with Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry after discussing the latest developments in Syria with Arabi. Hindu activists held a rally in Kathmandu demanding Nepal to be declared a Hindu state in the new constitution. Huge crowds were seen marching towards the restricted area near the parliament while waving flags and chanting slogans. The Nepalese government said a final draft of the constitution, which aims to maintain its secular character, may be finished in a week, which will be the first in Nepal's history to be written by elected representatives. The United Nations envoy to Yemen will return to Saudi Arabia to meet with members of the exiled Yemeni government after it pulled out of UN-mediated peace talks with its Houthi adversaries. Yemen's exiled government pulled out of the talks on Sunday as troops from the Saudi-led coalition that is seeking to restore it took part in ground fighting in a central province for the first time. Well, let's now get you some overnight sports news in our segment Sports Beat. The Indian team, consisting of Mohammad Asab, Ankur Mittal and Sangram Dahiya, won the bronze medal in the double trap team event at the ISSF Shotgun World Championships. With a score of 414, Great Britain won the gold medal and Russia claimed a silver after scoring 406 ahead of the Indian team, whose combined score was 400. The 6th-seeded Indian trio of Sarvesh Parekh, Sandeep Kumar and Isaiah Rajendra Sanam defeated Venezuela 231-222 to win the bronze medal in the men's compound team event at the Archery World Cup Stage 4. In the compound mixed event, Indian duo of Trisha Deb and Sarvesh Parekh lost 150-156 against top-ranked USA's team to lose the bronze medal contest. Former England cricket captain Brian Close passed away aged 84. He had been ill for several months. Close was the youngest player to win a test cap for his country and built a reputation for stubborn bravery in the face of hostile fast bowling attacks. He made his test debut for England against New Zealand at Manchester in 1949 at 18 years and 149 days, a record which still stands. He played his last first-class match at the age of 55 in 1985, finishing only 6 runs short of 35,000 runs at that level. That's it on this edition of the Breakfast News. Have a nice day.